Hollywood has a knack for turning history's bloodiest battles into epic spectacles, transforming real-life tragedy into cinematic legend. For decades, filmmakers have recreated the chaos of war with dazzling visuals and stirring soundtracks, drawing audiences into the heart of conflict from the safety of a theater seat. We see gleaming armor, stirring speeches, and perfectly choreographed sword fights. Every detail is meticulously planned, from the shine of a helmet to the rallying cry before a charge, all designed to sweep us up in the drama and excitement. These moments are crafted to make us cheer for heroes and hiss at villains. The lines between good and evil are drawn in bold strokes, and the audience is invited to pick a side, to feel the thrill of victory and the sting of defeat. But the truth behind these cinematic battles is far messier. The real events that inspired these films were filled with confusion, uncertainty, and heartbreak, far removed from the clarity and order of a movie script. Real warfare is chaos, mud, blood, and fear, not glory and clean heroics. The battlefield is a place of exhaustion and terror, where survival is never guaranteed, and the cost of every decision is measured in lives. The men who fought weren't flawless heroes, they were ordinary people, often terrified and desperate. Many were young and inexperienced, thrust into situations they could barely comprehend, clinging to hope in each other as the world around them fell apart. Hollywood simplifies history, compressing timelines and inventing characters to fit a neat narrative. Complex motivations are reduced to simple rivalries, and the messy reality of war is trimmed to fit a 2-hour runtime. The result? A compelling story, but rarely the real story. Audiences leave the theater moved and entertained, but often with a version of history that is more myth than fact. We risk mistaking legend for lesson, forgetting the true cost of war. The sacrifices made by real people can be overshadowed by the spectacle, their pain lost in the rush of cinematic excitement. The silver screen trades accuracy for entertainment, glossing over the grit and complexity. Makeup and special effects can mimic wounds, but they can never capture the true suffering or the lifelong scars left behind. War is not a grand adventure where good always triumphs. It is a relentless test of endurance, where the outcome is uncertain and the cost is measured in shattered lives and broken dreams. The reality is sobering, filled with suffering and sacrifice. Families are torn apart, communities are forever changed, and the echoes of conflict linger long after the last shot is fired. To truly understand our past, we must look beyond the movies. We need to seek out the voices of those who were there, to read their letters, diaries, and memories, and to listen to the historians who piece together the fragments of truth. The real stories are not as simple, but they are far more human. They are stories of fear and courage, of loss and hope, of people doing their best in impossible circumstances. When we only see the Hollywood version, we lose sight of what truly happened. The line between fact and fiction blurs, and we risk honoring the myth instead of the memory. The danger lies in believing the myth and ignoring the lesson. If we let entertainment replace understanding, we fail to learn from the past and risk repeating its mistakes. History deserves more than a 2-hour script. It demands our curiosity, our empathy, and our willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Let's step beyond the silver screen and into the real world of Thermopylae, where the echoes of the past still linger, waiting for us to listen and learn. Few battles in history have captured the imagination quite like Thermopylae. Its name echoes through the centuries, conjuring images of valor, sacrifice, and the ultimate test of courage. No battle has been more mythologized than Thermopylae. We all know the story. 300 Spartans, led by King Leonidas, standing defiantly against a vast Persian horde. It's become a symbol of resistance, of courage in the face of impossible odds, and of the willingness to fight for freedom no matter the cost. But the reality behind the legend is far more complex, and in many ways, even more fascinating. Historians have spent years piecing together the true events, sifting through ancient texts and artifacts to uncover what really happened. Thermopylae was not just a desperate last stand, it was a carefully chosen battleground during the Second Persian invasion, where the Greek city-states, often rivals, formed a fragile but determined alliance to defend their homeland. The narrow pass at Thermopylae was selected with strategy in mind. By forcing the Persians into a bottleneck, the Greeks hoped to neutralize their enemies' overwhelming numbers, turning geography into their greatest ally. The defenders were not just Spartans. The Greek force was a coalition, thousands strong, including warriors from many different city-states, all united by a common cause. Leonidas led the Spartans, but he was far from alone. Thespians, Thebans, and others stood shoulder to shoulder with him, each group bringing their own strengths and stories to the battlefield. The plan was never simply to die heroically. The Greeks aimed to delay the Persians, buying precious time for the Greek navy to organize and for the rest of Greece to prepare for the coming storm. Every move was calculated, a military operation designed to maximize their chances, not a reckless suicide mission. Their discipline and unity were as important as their bravery. The legend of Thermopylae is inspiring, but the real story is one of strategy, sacrifice, and the power of unity in the face of overwhelming adversity, a testament to what can be achieved when people stand together. The narrow pass of Thermopylae was the Greeks' greatest weapon. Geography forced the Persians to attack in waves, nullifying their advantage. The battle was part of a coordinated land and sea defense, with the Greek navy blocking the Persian fleet nearby. Internal politics and religious festivals limited the Greek force. Spartans couldn't send their full army. Leonidas led his elite guard, joined by allies not bound by the same restrictions. Their mission: hold the pass, delay the Persians, and protect the Greek navy. They fortified an old wall and prepared for a desperate defense. This wasn't a doomed last stand, but a calculated risk to buy time. The Greeks were an advance guard, not martyrs. Their stand was about survival, not just sacrifice. Hollywood loves the image of 300 Spartans standing alone against a vast Persian horde, their bronze shields gleaming in the sun. But the truth is far more complex and fascinating than the legend we so often see on screen. The real army at Thermopylae was not just a band of Spartans. It was a diverse coalition, a patchwork of city-states and cultures, each bringing their own strengths and stories to the battlefield. Alongside the Spartans marched Thespians, Thebans, Phocians, and others, each group with its own motivations, fears, and hopes for the future. The Spartans were elite, trained from childhood for war, but the Thespians fought just as bravely, standing their ground to defend their homes and families, refusing to abandon the fight, even when defeat seemed certain. The Thespians' courage was remarkable, their commitment unwavering, as they stood shoulder to shoulder with the Spartans in the face of overwhelming odds. The Phocians, meanwhile, were tasked with guarding a crucial mountain path, a responsibility that could determine the fate of the entire Greek force. The Thebans' loyalty was often questioned, their motives a source of tension and suspicion among the Greeks, adding a layer of political intrigue to the already tense alliance. The Greek alliance was fragile, held together by the looming threat of Persian conquest rather than true unity or trust. It was a mix of rivals and uneasy partners, city-states with long histories of conflict now forced to cooperate for survival. The Spartans' royal guard, the Hippies, were chosen not just for their skill in battle, but for their family legacy and unwavering loyalty to their king. Among them, fathers and sons stood side by side, bound by tradition and the weight of their ancestors' expectations. Every contingent, no matter how small, played a vital role in the defense, their combined efforts creating a force greater than the sum of its parts. This was not a band of brothers united by love or friendship, but a collection of wary allies, each watching the others as much as the enemy. The army at Thermopylae was a microcosm of the fractured Greek world, divided by geography, politics, and old grudges, yet brought together by a common threat. Their unity was forged by necessity, not by nature, and every day of resistance was a testament to their determination to survive. The real story of Thermopylae is richer and more human than legend suggests. A tale of courage, doubt, sacrifice, and the struggle to find common ground. Thermopylae was a shared struggle, a moment when rivals became allies and ordinary men became part of an extraordinary stand. The battle began with Persian waves crashing against the Greek phalanx. The fighting was brutal, pushing, stabbing, and chaos in the narrow pass. Greeks used discipline and tactics, feigning retreat to lure Persians into traps. For 2 days, Xerxes' best troops, including the Immortals, were repulsed with heavy losses. The ground was slick with blood, the air filled with screams and clashing metal. Soldiers rotated in shifts, exhausted and terrified. This was not cinematic heroism, but desperate survival. Xerxes watched in frustration as his army failed to break the line. The Greeks' phalanx proved nearly invincible in the pass. Their mission, to delay, not to win, was succeeding. But betrayal and a secret path would soon change everything. The cost was staggering, the reality far from Hollywood's gloss. The true horror of battle was inescapable. Hollywood's turns Thermopylae into a fantasy of chiseled heroes and monstrous villains. Spartans are shown as demigods, fighting in minimal armor, far from the reality of heavy bronze and strict discipline. The film erases the other Greek allies, ignoring the Thespians and others who died alongside the Spartans. The Persians are depicted as inhuman, the conflict reduced to good versus evil. Real Greek warfare was about unity in the phalanx, not individual showmanship. Breaking formation meant death for all, not cinematic glory. The movie's spectacle distorts the true nature of the battle. The real heroism was collective, not individual. The myth is powerful, but the truth is more meaningful. Thermopylae's real story is about shared sacrifice, not just Spartan legend. The real Thermopylae was terror, not triumph. Soldiers fought in suffocating heat surrounded by blood, sweat, and death. The phalanx was claustrophobic, pushing, shoving, stabbing in the dark. Wounds were gruesome and fear was constant. Bravery meant fighting despite terror, not the absence of it. When the Greeks were outflanked, Leonidas dismissed most allies, but Spartans, Thespians, and Thebans stayed. They made a final stand, fighting with swords, then hands, then teeth. It was not a glorious end, but a desperate, savage struggle. The last defenders were buried under a hail of arrows. The true last stand was tragedy, not legend. Thermopylae was a tactical defeat. The pass lost, Athens burned. But the sacrifice delayed Xerxes, disrupting his plans and inspiring Greece. The story of the stand spread, uniting the city-states. The time bought allowed Themistocles to prepare the Greek fleet. At Salamis, the Greeks crushed the Persian navy, turning the tide. The following year, united Greek forces defeated Persia at Plataea. Thermopylae's legacy was not military victory, but moral inspiration. It became a symbol of courage and unity against tyranny. The real victory was in the resolve it sparked. The battle was lost, but its story helped win the war. The combined sacrifice of all Greeks, not just Spartans, saved their world. When we trade history for Hollywood, we lose the truth. The real Thermopylae is richer, full of strategy, sacrifice, and flawed humanity. It's not a simple tale of good versus evil, but of real people facing impossible choices. Bravery is acting despite fear, not being fearless. The true story honors all who stood, not just the famous few. Understanding the gritty reality of war is a vital lesson for today. War is not a movie, it's suffering, loss, and sacrifice. The real story is less glamorous, but far more meaningful. We can enjoy the myths, but we must seek the truth. The story of Thermopylae is the story of us, flawed, frightened, and sometimes heroic.